kids for the car.
Shouting at like what?
No respect, no.
They've got no hope, have
No.
they?
What have the kids got?
It's unbelievable.
That's all you teenage child would do.
And all the teachers were there. The kids were in the car. I was in the car. But they couldn't see. They were good.
Relatively easy to get in there. It's still more faster, a lot climbing here.
Ha ha ha.